Discussion of the day, that is on cybersecurity metrics and KPIs, measuring and communicating the effectiveness of security programs. Let me introduce our moderator, Mr. Shrikant Iyer, CISO, Aditya Birla Health Insurance Company Limited. Can we have a big round of applause for Mr. Shrikant? Track record at Aditya Birla Health, his tenure as CISO has been defined by spearheading initiatives to end-to-end cybersecurity operations and regulatory compliance. The core of his work lies in developing robust compliance frameworks and risk management strategies that protect sensitive data and systems. With a relentless commitment to security, they strive to maintain the highest standards, constantly elevating our security posture in the dynamic landscape of healthcare information protection. With this, I would like to introduce our panelist, Manish Dave, Head of Information Security CISO, Aarti Industries Limited, Pankaj Kumar, Chief Internal Auditor and Chief Risk Officer, CEAT Limited, Yogesh Khairnar, Chief Information Officer, Maharashtra State Electricity Distribution Company Limited, Neeraj Rathi, CISO, Angel One AMC Limited. Can we have a big round of applause for all the panelists and the moderator? Unfortunately, Mr. Bhaskar Rao will not be the part of this panel discussion. He is unwell, but still he made it to the event. You can meet him personally and ask the questions and everything. You can network with him.
Thank you, Divya, for the introduction. So we will be discussing on the cybersecurity metrics and KPIs, measuring and communicating the effectiveness of security programs. So right now we are in the complex and dynamic field of cybersecurity, a lot of threats emerging. So we need to measure and communicate the effectiveness of the security program in an essential and possible manner where a decision-making is required at a management level. So cybersecurity metrics and KPIs serve as a critical tool for assessing performance, demonstrating value, and align security initiatives with the organization goals. What we will be discussing on is we will try to understand the importance of cybersecurity metrics and KPI in assessing the effectiveness of security programs, identify relevant metrics that align with the organization goals, and implementing KPIs to track incident response, threat detection, and vulnerability management effectiveness. So my first question goes to Neeraj. Why are cybersecurity metrics and KPIs essential for assessing the effectiveness of security program? And secondly, what impact do they have on overall security posture?
Okay. You can hear me? Perfect, thank you. So it's a good question actually, nowadays when you actually think about, cybersecurity metrics and KPIs, there are a lot of confusions, there are a lot of, ambiguity in that, okay? But basically when we talk about why it is essential is there are 10,000 reasons behind that, okay? But few things that I like to put it as one of these are risk management, okay? So by having this particular metrics and KPIs, okay, you actually, see what are the gaps, okay, which is there, and how you fulfill that gaps by prioritizing a lot of things into it, okay? How do you prioritize your allocations of resources, your investments into all those things? That is one thing. Okay, second is your regulatory compliance. So when you're actually adhering to this KPI metrics and all those things, okay, you are adhering to your regulatory compliances, which actually saves you from fines and reputational risks, basically. Okay, so these are the two main, things which, I could tell you on, okay, but there are plenty more, okay, but these two things which I, came to my mind. Also, one thing is that, demonstrating your ROI also. Okay, you need to understand that today what all investments that we do it on information security is for what? It's for reducing the risks, okay, it's for the benefit of the organizations. And at the end, okay, you will see the gradually improvement into the things. So these are the basically three concepts which I like to put it to the forum.
Yeah, that's true. Like allocation of resource, budgets, addressing the regulatory requirements. These are the key components. Neeraj sir, your view on this? Sorry, Yogesh. Yogesh, sorry.
Yeah, taking to Neeraj's point ahead, I want to add that you cannot manage what you cannot control. So for that, cyber security KPIs and matrices are essential because they provide quantifiable data and that will access the entire effectiveness of the cyber security program. And my view is a long-term view. Suppose I have a 5-year strategy or security plan for my organization. Based on strategy, I prepare a program. And into that program, I have some objectives, then the program controls and everything. So my goals will be defined like data protection, next will be risk management, then cyber security awareness program, then access control, incidents management response, and last and most important is compliance as well. So without this measurement, organization cannot determine what is working and identify the areas that need to be improvement. So that's why it is required.
Thank you. Now, Manish sir, what are the key considerations when selecting a cybersecurity matrix that should be aligned to the organization goals and security objectives?
Sure. So I think Neeraj and Yogesh mentioned about a couple of things. So broadly, there are 4 areas that you should consider. The first one is asset management. Second one is compliance. Third is risk areas, which they mentioned. And the fourth one is threat defense and remediation. So you have to cover all of these as part of your consideration. The second thing is if you look at governance in any organization, or maybe the let's limit it to IT, then you have 3 layers, right? The first one is SME or frontline, what we call. The second one is tactical, and the third one is strategic. And it applies to the whole hierarchy of the organization. So what usually happens is that the techie guys create KPIs in technology parlance, which the top leadership never understands. So at each level, we have to define that what exactly we want to measure. So for the frontline or the SMEs, maybe there will be very specific KPIs which are related to technology and outcomes of any EDR or SIM or whatever. The tactical layer would want to know that in the numbers, how are we achieving or how are we faring, so that they can improve the processes. But at the strategic level, it's only risk and what is the ROI that we get against any investment in security, right? So for me, I think you start with this and then slowly, there are a lot of things like Neeraj mentioned, that within each bucket, there will be multiple areas that you want to cover, and maybe going forward in other questions, maybe I'll cover that. Yeah?
Thank you. Pankaj sir, your inputs.
So coming from the risk perspective, any organization is assessed on the 5x5 matrix, which is the anything becoming true, what is the impact of the organization, and second is what is the probability of that risk taking place. And cyber, of course, falls under that. Any cyber incident or kind will have a financial impact, may have a market share impact, maybe have a reputational impact, maybe have a regulatory impact. And accordingly, the matrix has to come backward from that. And accordingly, you can prioritize and reallocate the assets accordingly. So the matrix and output has to be that actually if something has gone wrong, first, why did we fail to prevent? If it happened, then how fast we resolved it? If whatever time we take to resolve it, what all impacts it has done to the organization? It has a financial impact, some customer delivery impact, some regulatory impact, and kind of thing. So on these matrices, if we work, then that matrix is very, very quantified. And actually, that is what organization wants. Anything wrong going in the organization, including cyber, which we are talking, has these 5 impacts. And finally, what is the probability of that taking place? So it may be, we can say that, okay, a cyber attack on a particular incident, a particular desktop will have a minimum impact. So of course, we will have some metrics around that, and but we will ignore that. But like MES system, a very good example was given earlier in the supply chain. The whole plant will come down, will stop. So that is how the focus and basis that the weightage on those KPI, KRA, whatever we define has to be given. And accordingly, it has to be evaluated that how many times in a full year organizations, any system shutdown has led to loss of production, loss of sales, any regulatory non-compliance and kind of that. If we do that, it is very quantified and it meets to the objective and the strategy objective of the organization. That is what is my view.
Thank you. Coming back to Pankaj sir again. So how can organization ensure their chosen KPIs provide an accurate picture of the security program effectiveness across different areas? This can be a incident response, threat detection, or a vulnerability management.
So I will say it starts from that where we are able to prevent it. We know when we track that on a weekly basis, how many people try to get into our system in different levels, how many firewalls they were able to break, to what level they were able to reach. And that is because no damage to the organization, because we somehow at some level, we stopped it. So how many of them are getting stopped? Definitely, and we know the numbers, how many numbers and kind of thing are getting protected. If we failed to stop and it intended to some system, some mobile, some laptop, some desktop, then how fast we could contain it? How fast the system got detached from my overall servers, etc. Then even if that does not happen and a big attack happens, which has happened in many, for example, because it's a public domain, I can say AIMS attack. So AIMS their whole things got breached, and how fast they came to know AIMS actually took some time to came to know. So how fast we can come to know if there has been attack in my system, and which all operations are going to get impacted, and how fast we go back to the stakeholders. Look, in this whole cyber thing, one key thing which is the communication. If it comes through social media these days, that has become, then it is a bigger damage to the organization. How proactive and to whom all you want to inform. Normally, it is left to the IT and the cyber guys that, okay, you manage it. And they keep it to themselves fighting the fire alone. But then that's a fire. And if MD has to get involved, board has to be informed, directors needs to be informed, because then everybody will asking questions with anybody. That communication part also should be part of this whole program. And the speed is the key. Look, we cannot prevent 100%. Nobody can say we are 100% secured and my system will never get invaded by somebody. But once the invasion happens, how fast the response is and how do we minimize the damage, and after that, how do we put up preventive control measures, at least to prevent that particular incident from happening again. So these are the things which is part of any, I think I will say, strategy of any organization. And it is not only IT and the cyber guys. The problem today is that we have left it to a few people in the organization who are sitting in a corner giving all the support. When things goes wrong, then everybody will ask those. We have to then, the second part comes, how trained people are inside the organization, the non-IT guys, the non-cyber guys, the users actually who bring the problems in, because they are not aware of that. So how many people at least are trained, if not to solve the problem or prevent the problem, how to detect the problem? How do we train a mass to detect that, okay, this is an abnormal activity, which normally, and can they flag it to the concerned IT or cyber guy? So this also is a very, very important part, which is a weak link when I talk to many people across organization from risk perspective. It's a weak link. It is left to a group of people sitting in one corner. They can bring you, put in best-in-class systems. They can also organize training programs. Maybe people will pass those training programs, but they will never implement when actually the time comes to act. So he's saying, okay, today my system suddenly is blinking, going off and on, maybe and just switch it off and just log an incident and move off. So these are some aspects, a very practical aspect which goes wrong at times.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, there are only two persons, the CTO and the CISO, who are always responsible for any kind of attacks happening, and the business getting in data, taking out data without information, it's a lack.
So also businesses, which are big businesses across globe, bringing in a lot of bolt-on systems. Without the main IT team, we are aware of that. Because they found this is a good solution, somebody sold it, I thought this will solve my customer's problem, and they just plug in, and basically the central IT team never comes to know. They will come to know at some stage. But in the interim period, that risk is exposed. So how do we make them aware that if you are going to connect anything to my system, my server, I am the first. IT has to approve that in writing, even if it is a smaller one. It's not an issue of budget, it's not a call. It's not a business call. It's a call which has connected to the security of the system and the whole company. But unfortunately, that part also is a weak link.
Yeah, I believe it's the business, it's the technology team, it's the InfoSec. There should be a sign-up from everybody. Otherwise, some point of time it will burst. And
Absolutely. For example, even if they are doing an FNF and signing off with an employee, we have made it mandatory, IT team has to sign off.
true.
Simple. Normally, the business HOD will sign off, HR will sign off, admin will sign off. But now we have made it mandatory that even IT team will sign off. They will check the whole environment and system, and then it's okay. From my side, you can relieve this employee. So we have to go to those levels if we actually want to protect the environment. Otherwise, it will
True.
5-7 people in the system.
True. Yogesh sir, your input.
Yeah, there are some key steps, you have to align your KPI with specific objective. Just now you told that if I am focusing on incidence response, threat detection and vulnerability management, so I have to choose the KPI like mean time to detect, MTTD, MTTR, MTTR, likewise. So that will be more effective. And second thing is that use the measurable and reliable data. Sometimes incidents happens, but it is not been reported. Data breaches there, some device is compromised, but that is not been reported. So your data should be reliable data. And another point is you should be regularly review and update your KPI because the cybersecurity landscape is rapidly changing. So regularly assess your KPI and try to update them according to the situation. And one more point he has covered, you have to involve the cross-functional members of the organization or stakeholders. Some people from IT, HR, accounts team, stores, or maybe from procurement team. So all people, they will decide the KPI. And if all the stakeholders select the KPI, that will be more foolproof, I think. Last point I want to add is benchmark against the industry standard. So your KPI should be as per the industry standard, I think. So that's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
So very well said that all the departments should be part when you are defining the KPI for the organization and what role each and every department should play in that. Manish sir, you would like to add?
So I want to add a little different dimension to this topic. So we discussed about what the techie guy should do and so on and so forth. See, what happens is that when you, many of us present security in the board or risk committee meetings, right? So there will be combination of organizational senior leadership as well as independent directors. Now, what are the expectations of independent directors? They want to look at unadulterated data coming out from CISO's mouth, right? Whereas what we do is we only show rosy picture and, massage data to them. So I think one thing what we can start is that agree on a baseline, okay? So, for example, you pick up any 3-4 standards. What I did is I picked up NIST CSF, ISF's good security practices, CIS controls, and ISO 27001. Based on these frameworks, we created a baseline that today we are here, what you call current state assessment, right? So let's say on a scale of 1 to 5, we are at whatever, 1.8 to whatever, right? And then we go and show the board that this is the current status. Then every year on year or whenever the board meeting happens, quarterly, 6 monthly, we show how the bar is moving. And it can go downwards also, that's okay. But as far as we are transparent, everybody knows what is the real status. And not just, humne ye dal diya, wo dal diya, DLP kar diya. How effective it is, nobody talks about it. So maybe from our community, what needs to happen is that show unadulterated data to the decision makers, because then it will help them also to identify which areas investments or special focus is required. So maybe that will help refining the KPIs, because we end up showing we can go to 4 levels. Just think about it, threat defense, detection and response. You can have MTTD, you can have MTTN, which is notify to the customer. Then the third one is to report, and the fourth one is to remediate. Right? You can have all KPIs, but if at the end of it, there is no improvement or there is no reduction in that MTT X, then it's of no use. We just review it once a week, once a month, whatever, and then just get going. So I think these are the things where we need to focus as CISOs. So first is that how you can give transparent data to the board, and maybe out of the system itself. So you can in the board itself show that this is coming out of my orchestration layer, and this is where we are. What are the exceptions? How many exceptions we have given to employees? सब मांगते रहते हैं USB access दो ये दो वो दो. They should know that we are living with these risks. Yeah, so that's another side of how you want to refine or build your KPIs. Yeah, that's what my.
So one quick add-on to what he can say, since we present a very rosy picture to the stakeholders, that brings a lot of constraint on budget and resource allocation. Because then the top thinks that everything is good, fine, well in control, and then when you propose something, it gets rejected, and we feel bad. But the problem is we never presented, we never said, look, in my total spectrum, my cyber is covering only 75% of that. 25% is still uncovered, those bolt-ons, those odd mobiles, etc. So I fully agree with them. If we present the right picture, then one thing which I keep on hearing in this with my team members and this thing that budget nahi hai, resource nahi, that problem may get addressed to some level.
This is for Neeraj, sir. What strategies will security team use to effectively communicate to non-technical stakeholders?
Okay, this is a good question, okay. So, sometimes what happens, it becomes very difficult to express, okay, what we want to say. We try very hard, okay, that we use our normal languages, okay. We try to break with lot of examples. But there are technical terms, jargons, wo to rahenge, kuch kar nahi sakte, right? But on that, okay, what you can do is, you can simplify the concept, okay? Simplify the concept as in that you do not use the jargons, okay? You align it with your business goals and everything, okay? Avoiding those jargons and putting it in a very simple and clear text will help them to understand more, okay? That is one thing. Second is, whenever you're presenting it to non-technical people, you need to understand one thing, you need to, have yourself in their shoes, okay? So, avoiding jargons and putting into a dashboards, correct? Having a graphical representations, okay, that will help them to understand more clearly. And then when the question comes, obviously you need to answer that particular thing. That we cannot do anything, okay? And then, focus on, the business impact. Okay, that is more important, okay? So you need to actually go ahead, okay, and highlight the security risks and vulnerabilities that are there, okay? And how it can impact not only the department, not only the vertical, but as an organization whole, okay? The next is you demonstrate the ROI. Again, I'm telling the same thing because as you know, the entire search, what they stated, it is very important to be very clear, correct? So you need to tell the forum over there, that the investments, okay, that we are making into, information cybersecurity is to actually bring down the risk level, okay, to actually acceptable limit, okay, so that any audits or any regulatory that comes upon to you or any board member that asks you, okay, you can actually go ahead and tell, okay, this investment I've done it, okay, for this particular reason, and then you see the results of that particular. Okay, that is more important. And next thing is yes, your regulatory compliances, correct? So when you're adhering to these things, okay, you're adhering to regulatory compliances, you're adhering to regulatory guidelines, okay, you're clearing audits, okay. The board is giving you a wow feeling also, okay, that you have done a fantastic job in these things, okay. By doing all those things, you're actually reducing your penalties and fines. And most in today's world, apart from your penalties and fines, is your reputational risks. Okay, that. Once your reputation is finished, it's finished. For example, I will give you on that. Maggi ka naam to sabne suna hoga? Yeah, Maggi, the noodles. Okay, but few decades or 2 decades back, okay, there was a concept that Maggi is not the proper food to have it. Correct. then suddenly 10,000 different companies then came up with different type of noodles and systems, right? However, Maggie cleared everything, okay? But after that, what happened? Once upon a time, Maggie was only the soul in the market. Sir khada aise chalta tha. But now there are different competitors. So reputational risk has gone to it. So this is what I wanted to convey.
Just one quick add on this ROI. I thought this may be digressing. This digressing. So insurance does not have an ROI. So anything invested on cyber is not an ROI. That's a wrong concept, came from wherever it came. Maybe I'm from finance ground, we only brought that ROI thing. So it is like I have taken a term policy, if I'm alive for 80 years, then my whole premium has got lost. You cannot look from that angle. Similarly, if there is no attack and I have invested in heavily on cyber, maybe that is preventing that attack. But in somebody says, okay, kuch hota to nahi hai, why are you spending this crores and kind of thing. So somewhere this concept has to change in the digital world and when technology is becoming key to all of us. That investment in securing the data and system will not give you a direct ROI in quantified terms. And maybe this is something which we all have to keep on convincing the key stakeholder. Because how do I give an ROI? There is no attack for last 1 year, koi malware nahi or ransomware bole, how many crores you are spending, can we reduce the budget? No, it is because we have invested, that's why that is not happening. And if that happens, then consequences, nobody knows. Nobody can do an impact analysis. How many crores of profit will be lost, what reputation loss, what brand image. So maybe that ROI thing, I keep on this investment is a premium to secure your system and your company or a brand from anything which may go wrong because of a cyber. Yeah, it's a journey. I know it's not an easier saying than doing. As a finance guy, I used to ask sometime that, okay, isme itna paisa hai, what do we get kind of thing, but that has to change. And communicating to user, the challenge is that you tell the user the impact, what he rightly said. You tell the production guys how much production loss he will suffer. Tell the sales guy how much sales he will suffer. He understands that number. Tell the compliance guy what can be the risk to the compliance. Then the communication is loud and clear. Otherwise, if you tell a production guy and sales, he will not bother. So maybe when we present these things, we have to focus to those group of people. What is important for them? Tell them what they will suffer because if something goes wrong in that, and if they don't comply with whatever training or whatever things we are giving to them.
Correct. To add with what he stated was, you can align your context with stories. Okay, so you need to understand those are non-technical people. Okay, you need to give them a real-time examples. Okay, taking personal examples and features, and then align those examples with the organization risks and threats. That is how they will be able to understand more into detail. They can align to themselves, and then it becomes easy for you, and then means half the job is done.
True. Yeah, I just a funny thing to add. In one of the board meetings, one independent director asked me that why is it that whenever cybersecurity presents something, you always have a slide of abbreviations. So, and then I realized that none of the security solutions are a single word solution. Think about it, XDR, NGFW, SSE, this, that. So, whenever we present, you always have to you can't write everything in that slide, right? So you put acronyms. And this is where people, the non-techie guys get lost. Yeah. And they don't understand what we are trying to say. So the first thing is simplify it to layman's language. कि risk क्या है? Just you have a slide on IT estate, आपका जो पूरा technology क्या क्या है? Have that slide, उसमें which are the crown jewels? How are you red, yellow, green, whatever, and where you have white spaces, show all of it, and they will understand. कि हाँ भाई, this space we have something to do. इधर कुछ नहीं है. So then you can develop strategy around it. So maybe that was one point I wanted to add.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, it used to be like XDR short forms for everything, and other than the technical directors, other people are like blank and asking to each other, what is this in the board meeting? So yeah, every organization has taken that step of bringing that to business language and putting less of jargons, technical jargons, across in the board, where people can understand or give an example with that, like you said, give a real lifetime example of what's happening, why it is done, and how much damage is done. This is language the board understands. In the interest of time, I will be coming to the last question, which I would request everyone to answer. So, starting with Manish sir. How can organization balance the need for detailed security metrics with the risk of overwhelming stakeholder with too much of data? Like we discussed that, but in short, if you can.
Yeah, so I go back to my previous statement where I said that keep it simple. One slide probably, and I'm talking about stakeholders, overwhelming them. Stakeholders meaning the business pillar heads, vertical heads, and the board members. Yeah. So for them, all they want to know is risk kya hai? What is the risk exposure that we are carrying today, and what are you doing for that? If these two things you can weave in one slide or one matrix or whatever, then you are through, because then less questions will come from the other side. And the more complex you make it by showing technology and this and that, it will only elongate the conversation, and maybe it will get parked for next quarter or whatever. So my view is that whenever you are going to top stakeholders, just maybe top 5, these are top 5 risks. If you want to start a conversation, these are top 5 risks, maybe technical debt. Have the data ready, but say that we have not invested in laptops, desktop, we have not invested in operating system, we have not invested in blah, blah, blah. So today we are at so many crores of technical debt, risk 1. And then you say that we have analyzed the situation, we feel that this is a priority in which we should invest. Now we need your okay or whatever, rejection, or we want to accept the risk. Simple, these 3 things. Beyond that, you don't need anything. We create 50 slider and they lose interest in 3rd or 4th slide. So concise, crisp, and pointed.
True.
Yeah, that's my.
Thank you.
I will just have one quick add for the sake of time, that also we should add that how many attacks were prevented. Because that gives a good picture to the system that looked out of 1,000, 2 have penetrated, but 998 we have able to stop at some level without any impact to the company. And that should, because that's a positive news to the stakeholders, and they get a lot of assurance, okay, fine, the system is working. So that also can be added bit of over and above what he has suggested.
Yeah, that will cover the ROI part also, like the tool, the solution what you have purchased.
Insurance has worked.
It's worked.
So Manish has covered almost everything. He want to say that prioritize the important matrices. For that we select top 5 or top 10 worst. Show top 10 worst or top 5 worst. So that is the best method that I wanted to add. That's all.
Thank you.
Okay. To sum up what everyone has stated is, if I want to put it in one word, is review your matrix regularly. Correct. So until and unless you review it, you will not be able to understand the relevance of the data is actually there or not. So reviewing the matrix regularly will help you to understand what are the risks that is pertaining, that is there, that is being taken care of, what extra controls that you need to put it, what controls compensatory controls you need to put it, that is more important. So review the matrix on a regular basis is one of the perfect thing that you need to do.
Thank you. So rightly said, like Manish sir said, that to the management it should be crisp, like what data to be shown. If we are in a bad shape also, have the guts to present to the management and say that what kind of compensatory control what we have and what help or support we need from the management. That's one thing. Review that needs to be there when we have certain different metrics with the business, with the IT, with management, everybody. It should be top-to-down approach on that. I would like to thank all the panel members over here for today's session. And yeah, Divya, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shrikant, for moderating the panel so well. And thank you to all the panelists for the session. I would like to call upon stage Mr. Bhaskar Rao, CISO, the Bharat Co-operative Bank Limited, to do the honors.